Welcome to ACD Combatives, your combatives and control tactics channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. Guys, Coach Kurt. So we're going to talk a little about transition drills. I think it's one of the most important things when you're teaching concepts to police officers or security personnel, whoever that uses non-lethal tools like a baton or pepper spray or your taser. And when I say non-lethal, generally speaking, it's non-lethal. Can anything turn into a lethal situation? Of course it can. But generally speaking, we're talking less than lethal or non-lethal tools. A lot of officers don't get enough time in control tactics as it is, and then you start throwing in baton, pepper spray, and taser, and they start losing the hands-on tactics that they absolutely need. But the most important aspect of any law enforcement training is when it comes to control tactics and use of force, in my opinion, is distance management. Distance management is so important, especially when you're trying to buy time to transition to a tool on your belt, like a taser or pepper spray or your baton. And I like to show the teep. In Muay Thai, they call it the teep. It's a front kick. Generally speaking, it's the lead leg front kick, but it absolutely can be the rear leg for combatives. But the lead leg, closest weapon to the closest target is what I like to say. If the person is coming in on you, like you see my training partner coming in on me, I use that teep to keep them off of me, and then I can either enter into a clinch like I'm demonstrating on the video now, where I'm using the elbow shield and crashing in. You saw that early in the UFC, successfully used quite a bit by Royce Gracie. He would use that lead leg kick or rear leg kick, and then he would crash in with the elbow shield, which protects your head, basically the shut-off button to your computer. You don't want to get hit in the face or the chin or the temples or anything like that, or the jawline by your ear. These are all things that can knock you out. So there are many ways to skin a cat, but my favorite way to introduce concept to distance management is that lead leg kick. That was more of a side kick or traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style of lead leg kick. But I prefer the teep like I'm showing on video now, which is basically a foot jab. It's great to keep them off of you, and it's also good to be offensive with it and how to crash in and get the body lock or take them down. Or the whole purpose of this video is to transition to another tool. Like in this case, I'm using my baton on video. So you've used the teep to keep them off of you, which buys you time to transition to your baton. And one of my favorite ways to teach the transition drill is to incorporate the teep, giving them a scenario, and let the officer choose what level of tool he wants to use. He thinks that it's a pepper spray situation, then he can draw his pepper spray. If he thinks it's baton, taser, you get the idea. But the whole point is to buy you the time you need to get to those tools. Quite often, things happen pretty fast. A person can close the distance between you and them fairly quickly. That's why we call it distance management. Whoever controls the distance and manages the distance best in a fight is, generally speaking, the one that's probably going to win, or at least keep control of the fight or whatever the situation is. So, back on track. I highly recommend that you train the lead leg kick or the teep and practice going into the clinch, doing it correctly, and also practicing lateral movement, like you see me doing lateral movement with the taser. Imagine that I've kept them off with a teep or some kind of kick and gone to another tool. In this case, pepper spray. You see on screen, the guy comes in, I sidestep, I use a roundhouse kick in this particular scenario and kick them in the thigh, slowing them down, allowing you to get to another tool and close the distance. In this case, a front kick, and then I'm doing a drive stun. And the example was, as you can see, there was already a prong in. This lower prong probably missed, and then you've got to go in for a drive stun. And the best way to do that is incorporate a teep or some kind of strike to strike your way into the closing the distance so you can drive stun. And again, here I am just demonstrating how they're approaching, and you're just keeping them off with that teep. This is the bread and butter key aspect of this whole video, is that teep buys you the time to get in to affect the arrest. Here he is, an actual situation. The officer uses the front kick to keep him off. And in this situation, that was enough. The individual, that was kind of like knocked him out of his lizard brain. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're the cop. I'm going to let you arrest me. Turns around, lets him put the cuffs on, and everything worked good in the world. Now, this guy's drunk. You can kind of see it in his face. I have a video on this whole scenario as well. I think it was Distance Management Part 2 is, if you look in my videos, it breaks down this whole incident. It was a good example of the teep and distance management, keeping them off you long enough. If that officer needed to or wanted to, he could have transitioned to his taser, sidestepped, used his pepper spray. Here he is. You see the hit him back first concept. More force now usually equals less force later. This is completely reasonable under the Graham v. Connor model of control tactics. Basically, it's the Supreme Court, Graham v. Connor. It basically should be your whole mission statement when it comes to control tactics. At least that's the way it is with my department. If you guys have some other way of teaching, let me know in the comments. But basically, to sum it up, in a nutshell, distance management, and again, there's 100 ways to skin a cat, is just my favorite way to start the idea off. Because a lot of officers don't like the clinch range. Clinch range is the most important range to teach officers, because that's the scariest place for a lot of officers to be, next to being on the ground with somebody on top of you. The two most important parts of control tactics is distance management, the standing clinch, and then ground fighting. The striking comes more natural, at least to American cops, from what I've noticed. Americans like to punch. Boxing is our sport of choice when you're talking about combat sports. Wrestling is super popular, but not nearly as popular in the United States as boxing. But you get with somebody who knows how to clinch, and they're going to be a very difficult opponent to control. The first thing you see in any boxing match is when they clinch, the ref breaks it up. So a lot of people don't feel comfortable in that range. And in the sport world, it's just not fun to watch for a non-initiated sports fan who doesn't understand the clinch. There's so much chest going down in the clinch, digging for those underhooks and what have you. Anyway, let me wrap this up. Distance management is super important. It allows you time to draw your secondary weapon in transition and train that way. Thank you so much, everybody. Please like, subscribe, and share. Take care.
Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out.